What's going on? Boys, today we are talking ENTJs. Some observations on their inner workings. We will start with ENTJ ego. Now, first, remove the negative connotations that word carries. That's not what we're talking about, or that's not the way we're talking about it. For ENTJs, ego seems to be a tool. The ways they see themselves, their mindsets, are what generate all the forces they wield. Now, there are ways of thinking about this which make understanding the process easier, but I will start by giving you a keen ENTJ's description of sort of what I'm talking about. He describes his ego, the source from which all his power comes, as a fortress with layered walls going in and in and in. Then a big castle. Then inside the castle is a box. And inside the box is a single glass marble wrapped in paper. Now, that's a useful image, but ENTJ ego is more tool-like. I'll present you a different image. There is a wizard in a high tower, and the wizard commands flames. The wizard shoots flames all over the place, can burn things down to combat his or her enemies and protect his or her friends. But the wizard can't generate fire on their own. Instead, in that tower is one candle, and that little candle is the source of all the ENTJ's fire. Great flames generated from a small source. That small flame is ego. It's self-perception. If an ENTJ thinks highly of themselves, they can do anything. If they think they're a mountain mover, they will move mountains, whether or not they are actually a mountain mover. Everything comes back to self-perception. People who dislike ENTJs would think they are arrogant, and that arrogance is fed by other people. But it isn't. Other people actually have very little to do with this. If people congratulate them, that's cool, but you'll notice if people don't, or if people attack them, ENTJs seem largely unfazed. They don't give a shit. They have better things to do. They will keep on doing whatever they need to do. They have demon FE. An ENTJ with FE couldn't be an ENTJ because other people's opinions would bother them too much. Other people's opinions don't factor into the ENTJ's judgment unless they need to, or unless the ENTJ is falling apart, in which case that FE will come flooding in destructive ways. But as long as the ENTJ can maintain their self-perception, can maintain that small flame from which all the other flames stem, they can do whatever they need to. Now, this sounds like a good setup. Maintain the positive self-perception. Never put themselves in a situation they need to question themselves for the negative. And they can roll. They can do whatever they need. How does it fall apart? Firstly, a lack of insulation, or creating vulnerabilities in their armor without realizing. ENTJ's self-perceptions are varied. They are multifaceted. Usually they can be backed up with evidence, with accomplishments. But almost always, one facet of that high self-perception will stick out. It won't be backed up with accomplishments. It won't be backed up with hard work. It will be something they talk about often. A particular way they see themselves that is not true in the slightest. These untrue self-perceptions tend to be creative, artistic, or academic. They will talk about that thing often, but they will do nothing with it really. ENTJs are these motivated, successful people, and they could hang their hats on any one of their accomplishments. But they dwell on this one thing they are making no progress in. When they try, it goes nowhere. And most of the time, they don't even try. That's the most interesting part. They talk about these things, they talk about the sort of artist they want to be, or the sort of academic they want to be, but they can't even bring themselves to start, which is in complete contrast with everything else about them. When something needs to be done, they do it. When they want something, they get it. But on this one thing, they won't even bring themselves to begin most of the time. This is a self-perception vulnerability. If you are on an ENTJ's side, or you are an ENTJ, you need to pay attention to this, because someone or something will try to get in and quash that self-perception using this. Someone will come along and say, or they will be in a situation and end up thinking to themselves, you talk a whole lot about this, and you do absolutely nothing with it. Why? Now, at that moment, the ENTJ could respond a few different ways, but what's important is the introduction of grounded self-doubt. They have no response for that thing in particular. They are goal-oriented, results-driven people. So when confronted with the realization, this thing that is so important to me, why aren't there results? Makes the self-perception start faltering. Now, it won't crush it, it won't crash it, but you will notice the effects of that self-doubt in their work moving forward. Either A, they will double down on all their other accomplishments, but get no results in the thing they hold dear and talk about a lot, their vulnerability. Or B, they will throw themselves at their vulnerability, the thing they're getting no results in, and they will make a mess of it. Not because there's something wrong with them, but because they are tilted. And remember, that situation or that person that instigated this has nothing to do with it. They are fighting themselves at this point. They are fighting to maintain their own perception of themselves. Because their own self-perception, the thing that gives them their strength, the thing that allows them to endure, to move mountains, they are having trouble justifying it to themselves now. It becomes something along the lines of, I can do all this, but now I can't do that one thing, and it's bugging me. I feel like a dryer with a cinder block in it. Now, one of a few things happens after one of these moments. Once they are unable to justify themselves to themselves, and it begins affecting their work, or their mental health even. The first thing, they just move on. If they couldn't get results, it probably didn't really matter to them all that much, so worrying about it isn't worth the trouble. That's the good ending. The second thing is the guarded retreat. They stop, and they back away, making excuses for why they couldn't, or why they haven't. This one is a little rougher because their defense mechanisms do pop up. You see things in them at this moment you wouldn't expect from ENTJs, like self-victimizing, shifting the blame, shifting the goalposts, anything for them to justify themselves to themselves. It's not particularly pretty, but it can be kind of funny.
Go on.
No, I sense I've made a mistake of some kind.
Then you have the third thing, which is the worst in every way. The ENTJ doesn't realize what's happening, but they are furious. So back to the wizard example. The wizard, seeing those damn pesky kids throwing rocks at the castle, takes the candle and runs outside and tries to burn the kids with the candle, only for them to blow it out. This is the instance the ENTJ spurgs out, attacks people, and instead of subduing the problem, they just reveal every single one of their other insecurities, or things people can attack that would screw with the ENTJ's self-perception. When an ENTJ with low self-control is angry, they will yell everything that holds them together as a human being at someone or at a problem in an attempt to attack it, when in reality all they're doing is throwing the person or the situation every little tool they would need to take the ENTJ apart. They'll go, I am this, and I am this, and that thing is stupid. When everyone around them sees, okay, so you're weak on this, actually. You're weak on this, and that thing is what will take you apart if anyone chooses to use it. If you are an ENTJ, try not to open your mouth when you are angry. You are not shutting those people down. You are giving them ammunition. The ammunition they need to make you think less of yourself. If you are friends with an ENTJ, you're with an ENTJ, when you see them getting mad, be there for them. Help them calm down. Don't let them give the mob tools against them. Now, that creativity/academic vulnerability thing is just one example, one that I've observed in many ENTJs. But anything could be a vulnerability. Anything, any way they see themselves, which could, unexpectedly and outside their control, change to reflect them negatively, in a way they can't really argue with. Now, they're going to say things like, well, if I can't back it up, I don't deserve it. And that goes for everyone. And that's a cool thing to think about yourself, but eventually they will end up in a situation they can't back it up, and they don't deserve it. But it's still really important to them. So if you can find a way to mitigate that, help them develop it, or just find a way to help their self-perception not be shattered in that way, you can help them stay at 100%. You are guarding any self-perception which gives them strength, which could be, is probably at risk of being, proven wrong in an inarguable or unjustifiable way, even to themselves. Some quick examples of self-perception vulnerabilities that are sticking out and at risk. Expert or specific knowledge is one. Others' feelings or interpersonal relationships is another. Sexual prowess is a fucking touchy one, no pun intended. Anything which could be proven wrong that would make them question themselves. Guard those carefully. Help them develop them, or run defense for them. The ideal person they are fashioning themselves to be is their greatest strength. That is what allows them to do the impossible. Accomplish inhuman feats. If they are hurting and questioning themselves, they can't operate at 100%, they can't be themselves. And they are people too, and everyone deserves to be watched out for, at least a little bit. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. I had some other ENTJ-isms planned for this video, but we'll cut it off here. Try to keep it concise. Like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes. And comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. If you're an ENTJ, what are your experiences with self-perception? Or what does that ideal self mean to you? What are some experiences of or with having that fall apart in ways you weren't expecting? How did you cope? If you know an ENTJ, what are your experiences with all this sort of stuff? I'd be interested to hear. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Really, we have a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun, in fact, you could fill a notebook up with it. Just a notebook full of fun. But that's how much fun we have on this channel, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.